United States has illegally fired members of the Consumer Product Safety Commission. It is cruel, it's dumb, and it's unlawful. And I know personally for literally decades about the work of the Consumer Product Safety Commission because I worked with them as Attorney General of the state of Connecticut and now as a United States Senator for at least 3 decades. And this agency literally has saved lives. So have the consumer advocates who are behind me, all of the organizations that are represented here today. I want to thank them for keeping the flame alive of consumer protection in a very, very difficult and challenging time. You may never have heard of the Consumer Product Safety Commission, but it literally has taken harmful products out of your home, destructive products away from your children before they cause injury or death, and saved lives in your family and others. The CPSC has dealt with tip-over furniture, rock and play, Fisher-Price contraptions, Pelotons, water beads, small magnets. The list is pretty much endless, and so are the lives that have been saved. Now, each of these products may not kill thousands of people, but together they represent thousands of lives saved and injuries prevented, and that's what the president is about to forestall. The reason these commissioners have been fired is pretty straightforward. They objected to dismantling the CPSC. These firings are totally political. These commissioners objected to the president destroying an agency that saves lives. You may think that's an exaggeration, but it's the straightforward, simple truth. The Consumer Product Safety Commission exists under law, and the commissioners cannot be fired unless they commit malfeasance or corruption. And there's been no allegation that they did either. This firing of 3 commissioners is simply to destroy the agency, and it violates the law. I'm not going to speak at length because we have a fairly lengthy group of speakers, including the 3 commissioners, and they are going to come up one by one. First, Alexander Hohn-Sarek. Then we're going to turn to Amy Klobuchar and Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Then Richard Trumka, also a commissioner. I'm hoping that we'll be joined by my colleague Chris Van Hollen, and then Mary Boyle, who is also a CPSC commissioner. But we have here as well, I just want to tell all of you, some of the advocates who have actually been involved firsthand. For example, Ashley and Kipley Haugen, who are familiar firsthand with the water bead products that literally cause death. I want to introduce now Alexander Hohn-Sarek. Thank you.
Good to see you, Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal. And I appreciate the support that you, Senator Klobuchar, Representative Wasserman Schultz, and so many members of Congress have shown to the CPSC over many years. You know, I'd really prefer not to be here today. I'd prefer to be at the CPSC listening to around 20 members of the public talking to us about what was supposed to be a priority hearing today. But instead, we're here discussing the illegal firing of myself and my colleagues, the beleaguered state of the CPSC, and the potential dismantling by DOGE. Going into this year, CPSC, and let's step back for a second, CPSC has a completely nonpartisan mission. Our job is to protect the public from unreasonable risks of injury and death, like the one that Senator Blumenthal described, And that's it. That's what we're here to do. Going into this year, the CPSC was strong. We had assessed a record amount of civil penalties against companies that violated product safety laws. We had removed a record number of products from online marketplaces that violated the laws. We had issued a record number of grants to entities to improve pool safety and to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. And we were rapidly advancing critical product safety rules. And one such rule is actually to establish safety standards for the water beads that both Ashley and Kipley would talk about later and Senator Blumenthal mentioned. And these are tiny little beads that small kids are too often swallowing. They expand about 100 times their size and cause internal blockages and even death. If the CPSC was working right, we would have that rule in place today. But for the last several months, the agency has been really spinning its wheels, trying to respond to executive orders and White House directives that at best wasted the agency's time and at worst undermined the agency's mission. Hiring freeze was left in place at CPSC, so we're without a head of compliance, without a chief financial officer, and without a grants officer to be able to advance the grant programs that Senator Klobuchar, Representative Wasserman Schultz worked so hard to establish. And despite knowing how understaffed the CPSC is, the administration is pushing to cut even more jobs. Not for efficiency, but really to hit a head count that the White House has been pushing for. These cuts, let me be clear, will harm American people. They're going to result in more trips to the emergency room and ultimately more deaths. So with the arrival of DOGE, the threat of moving the CPSC over to HHS, and the legal removal of myself and my colleagues, I really fear for the CPSC's future. I fear that more staff are going to be fired and new safety standards for water beads, for lithium-ion batteries, for inclined infant seating products will never be established. That personally sensitive information the CPSC collects in its investigations will be in the hands of DOGE operatives who have no understanding of the related risks. That products that should be recalled may not be recalled because the companies may be favored by the administration, and that the remains of the CPSC will be buried inside HHS and not able to protect the American public like it has done for over 50 years. I'm grateful to the advocates and the lawmakers who continue to fight for the CPSC, and with your support, I hope to be back at my desk doing my job, bringing the agency back to where it should be. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Senator Klobuchar.
All right, very good. I'm just listening to the commissioner and getting angrier and angrier as I do that. And I think if we look for anything we can agree on in this Capitol, and we have in the past on a bipartisan basis, is that we don't want kids, toddlers dying because an unstable piece of furniture falls on top of them with unknowing parents, that we don't want kids getting their intestines ripped out in a swimming pool, that we don't want kids ingesting toys with lead. When I think about the CPSC, I start with that because that was when I arrived as a senator. We had a case of a 4-year-old that mom had got a pair of Reebok tennis shoes, and there was a free charm included. The kid swallowed it, and he didn't die by choking. He died because slowly but surely over a period of days, the lead in that charm seeped into his system, and he died of lead poisoning. The charm was from another country. We passed then the most sweeping consumer legislation on a bipartisan basis, and I carried the provisions about the lead in the toys. It was one of my first things I ever got done. And then where did it go to be enforced? The CPSC. It can't go to some major agency that's already there that isn't going to have the people on the ground that understand these consumer issues and are able to enforce the laws and put out the rules. We literally will be cutting off our ability to protect kids from choking on or dying from lead toys. Other examples. We have got the swimming pool bill that Representative Wasserman Schultz and I led. In my case, again, came out of a little girl that was at a swimming pool a public pool. She was at a swimming pool. She sat on the drain, little Abby Hunold, and her intestines were ripped out in that drain. She lived for a year. She had 15 different surgeries, and I met her in the hospital room with this big smile, and she said, I don't want this to happen to anyone else. From there, Abby's Hope was launched. See the shirt? And we were able to pass this bill, and Representative will show you the pool drains. CPSC enforced it, and actually one of my best moments ever, people say, oh, what are you glad you... My best moment ever was when we were able to get that bill on another bill with some skill from Harry Reid and some Republican help from Ted Stevens, and we were able to get that bill done, and I got to call Abby's mom and dad after she died and tell them this passed. Then the other moment was when the CPSC testified that in fact there'd been no deaths from the swimming pool drains. There'd been a handful every single day, every single year. There would have been no deaths after that rule was put in place. True story. Other examples, the dressers, something we worked on with Senator Casey and others, and we finally had the biggest furniture recall in the history of America. That was something that was negotiated by the CPSC. The list goes on and on and on. So we need the people in place and the commissioners in place to do the work, to get the recalls, to take the corrective actions, to make sure that products entering our markets are safe. We need it more than ever. So I ask the administration to reverse this hurtful move, and I know that it is wrong legally, but this was just plain short-sighted to get rid of these incredible public servants, and we're going to fight to the end because the one thing we should agree on is that kids shouldn't be dying from swimming pools or dangerous toys. So thank you very much, Senator Blumenthal, for putting this together. Thank you for the commissioners. I'm sure seeing your life's work be disrespected in the way that it has is hard, but I'm glad you're here today to stand up.
Thank you. Thanks, Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you so much.
Representative Wasserman Schultz.
Thank you very much, Senator. It is actions like the unlawful removal of the 3 Democratic, large D, Democratic commissioners from the Consumer Product Safety Commission that are the reason that representation matters. Because I have spent my entire legislative career with children's safety at or near the top of my legislative agenda. Senator Klobuchar and Senator Blumenthal are often my counterparts on so many different efforts to make sure that we can keep children and adults safe. Because the reality is that in many instances, children are not able to ensure that they can be kept safe. Yes, parental vigilance, supervisory vigilance is incredibly important. We all know that that's a component of safety. But so many times, because of corporate negligence or human negligence and a variety of other reasons, people have harm come to them, children, adults, as a result of there not being an obstacle in their path and the law to ensure their protection so that those harms can be removed. That is what the Consumer Product Safety Commission's job is, to be the second line of defense so that we can ensure that we have laws and grant programs and funding and enforcement to protect people who need that protection when other safety measures lapse. And when you have corporations that negligently manufacture products that are causing harm, and in so many cases, refuse to actually change them. This is the old drain cover, the flat drain cover in nearly all pools for all the years that pools existed prior to 2007 when the Virginia Graham-Baker Pool and Spa Safety Act became law. Because of this drain cover being flat and the suction coming from the pumps for swimming pools being so strong that when a small adult or a child would either sit down on it like Abigail did or in some cases the suction drew in a young child and grabbed their hair or their arm or their buttocks, and they were unable to get themselves off. And Virginia Graham Baker died in a spa. The law is named after Graham Baker because she died in a spa in her family's backyard during a graduation party when there were dozens of people right there around the pool. But she was silently attached to the spa drain because it was a flat drain that was a dangerous product that needed to be removed from the market. Lo and behold, the safe drain cover became available. Pool manufacturers were refusing to make the switch. The process was very slow. The Virginia Graham Baker Pool and Spa Safety Act required all public pools and gave them a year to come into compliance, enforced by the Consumer Product Safety Commission, so that when we switched all public pools to the safe drain cover, which has a rise to it, so it cuts.
Isn't that expensive?
Right? It cuts the suction. I mean, if it costs $75, it would be a lot. And since 2007, that 1 year time span, as the senator said, we have had no confirmed suction drain entrapment deaths, and we had 9 or 10 every single year. And I'm talking Graham Baker had like 5 adult men trying to pull her off the suction drain, and they couldn't. So there are countless examples, like the one that Amy mentioned with the beads, that these commissioners, all 5 of them, frankly, in a bipartisan way, are on the front lines every single day making sure that needless deaths don't happen. And the thing about public safety, my friends, is that we'll never really know who didn't die, who wasn't horrifically injured as a result of the work that they do pulling products off the market. We have examples when complaints are filed, and then they swoop in and they do the necessary work to make sure that we can keep people safe when they can't do that themselves. Layered on top of this very disturbing situation is that these were individual public servants who were fired completely unlawfully. The CPSC is an independent commission. It is bipartisan. I can tell you all the years that we have worked with the commissioners, when there's a Republican in charge or a Democrat in charge, it hasn't mattered at all. The same vigilance, the same work. These are people committed to keeping people safe, and it's never mattered what party they were. What matters is that they had the independence, both from politics and from corporate pressure. Because believe me, these corporations would prefer not to recall their products and go to the expense of making them safe. So we will be absolutely certain that if they end the Consumer Product Safety Commission as we know it, and these commissioners are not restored to their jobs, and I have a feeling that they ultimately will be, then you move it into HHS, and guaranteed we will see more needless deaths and injuries, and that will be on Donald Trump's head. So I hope our colleagues come together to join us in making sure that we can restore some sanity and some safety, because it is at a minimum what is sorely needed right now in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We're going to hear from Commissioner Trumka, but let me just emphasize this point. The reason that these commissioners were fired is that they had the temerity to stand up to big corporations that wanted the agency dismantled. And Trump is taking a signal from corporations who think it's in their interest to put unsafe products on the market. In fact, the cost of making them safe is minuscule. The cost of failing to make them safe is horrendous. And these commissioners had the guts and the grit to stand up to those corporations and say, we're going to keep unsafe products off the market. And it shouldn't be partisan. And it hasn't been partisan. And that's why I'm proud to introduce Commissioner Trumka.
Thank you, Senator. That's all right. Thank you to all the consumer champions who are standing shoulder to shoulder with us today. And I have no doubt they're here because they all know the truth that an attack on the CPSC matters for every American. any cuts to our agency would compromise safety in homes and schools across the country. We're the agency that stops products from killing babies in their sleep. We're the agency that stops your kids from getting lead poisoning and stops your older relatives from strangulation deaths. We oversaw 333 recalls last year, covering over 150 million products. As commissioners, we've pushed hard. We've pushed hard to protect your families as much as we protect our own. And for that, we were illegally fired. Fired right after we advanced a solution on the lithium-ion battery problem that was burning down homes and killing people across the country. Fired the day after we went on record saying we wouldn't allow them to get rid of any of the hardworking public servants who work every day to keep us all safe. And fired just minutes after we had refused to allow DOGE to invade our agency and gut it from within. But I would take every one of those actions again, because they matter. What matters to me is the mission, and all of this serves keeping people safe. Our firings were illegal, and we will right that wrong in court, and we'll protect our independence. The independence that's given us the freedom to go after powerful corporations in service of the American people, corporations like Amazon and Tesla. And when we win and we're put back into our jobs, I can't wait to get back to that work, because I want to follow through on our commitments that we've made to deliver safety rules for all of you this year. Rules to save 100 lives per year from carbon monoxide poisoning, to save over 100 lives per year from toxic dusters, to stop gruesome deaths of young children from corded window coverings, button batteries in toys, neck floats, and water beads, and to stop tens of thousands of amputations from table saws. Now, today was supposed to be the most important day at our agency. It's our annual appropriations hearing, or at least it was supposed to be. That's when any member of the public can come and tell us their stories, often of heartbreaking loss. They can tell us what problems they face and how they want us to solve it. And traditionally, that's what we've always done. We've worked as hard as we possibly could to solve those problems. But after our illegal firings, the acting chair canceled today's priorities hearing, denying consumers their opportunity to speak. And it makes me question who's running that agency right now. Because that decision is not in the interest of safety, and it conflicts with our agency's history and legacy and values of lifting up consumer voices. Thankfully, some of those parent advocates are here today to share their stories, and I stand ready to listen, to learn, and to find out how we can solve those together. The mission continues. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. And we've been joined by our great colleague, Chris Van Hollen.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Trumpka, for your leadership and other members of the Consumer Product Safety Commission. And I want to thank my colleagues, starting with Senator Blumenthal and Senator Klobuchar, and it's great to see you. Debbie Wasserman Schultz and I work together on the House on many issues. Thank you for your leadership on this. I'm going to be brief. I'm proud to represent the state of Maryland that is home to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, both its headquarters as well as its testing facilities. And the reason we're all here is to protect the integrity of the commission so that they can protect consumers throughout our country. Because when people buy products that are overseen by this commission, they have an expectation that they will be safe. And because of their work, and I know my colleagues have emphasized this, we have saved thousands and thousands of lives in the United States of America. Whether it's from fires, where you've had such important work that's done, to inspecting toys that come into the United States from overseas. I think over 1 million toys were seized from China and other places because they were unsafe, including about 100,000 because they were contaminated with lead paint, which poisons children. So because of that good work on behalf of American consumers, the Commission has essentially drawn the ire of some very powerful corporations and powerful people. And that's what's going on here. Those corporations and those powerful people don't want the Commission to get in their way, and they're prepared to put their own profits ahead of the safety of the American people. You know, Elon Musk's operation has nothing to do with making the government more efficient. He's taken a chainsaw across the government to better rig the government for people like Elon Musk and a number of big corporations. And that is exactly what they're doing when they're getting rid of something like the commission or claiming to reform it when we know they're taking a chainsaw to it. So I just want to thank my colleagues. Thank you to the commissioners. I saw Mr. Trumka, you said we'll see you in court. And we will fight them in the courts, in the Congress, and in communities all over the country on behalf of American consumers, because we need to make sure the American people's safety is prioritized over profits. Now it's my honor to introduce another one of the commissioners. She's been a senior CPSC official for over a decade before being appointed commissioner, and led a lot of important consumer efforts before that. Before her stint at the commission, she was helping lead the development of affordable housing in Gaithersburg in the state of Maryland. So if you could all please join me in welcoming and thanking Commissioner Mary Boyle. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Van Hollen, for that introduction. I also want to thank my colleagues, Rich Trumka and Alex Hohensarek, who you've heard their passion, and I share their passion. And I want to just emphasize, in addition to everything they said, which I agree with, one point, and that is that safety is not partisan. I actually have been at the CPSC now for 15 years. For 12 of those years, I was a civil servant. I have always been committed to safety as a nonpartisan issue, and that has been the mantra of everyone at the agency. And that has only changed since January, where safety has become a partisan issue. And that is not in the interest of the American people. And so I intend with my colleagues to challenge this issue, to challenge this illegal termination, because it is not in the interest of the American people and because safety should not be a partisan issue. And now I actually have the biggest honor of the day, and that is to introduce our next speaker, and that is Ashley Haugen, who is here with her daughter Kipley, and she is why we are doing what we do at the CPSC. We are here to protect consumers, and it doesn't matter for fear or favor what a corporation has to say about what we do. We are here to protect consumers like Ashley and her daughter, and I would like to take this moment now to introduce them. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Mary. Ashley and Kipley, if you would come forward. Thank you for coming. Why don't you face this way?
This is a picture of water. These oaks gotta go this way.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna have to turn the brightness all the way up. Good afternoon. My name is Ashley Haugen, and I am here as a mother and someone who deeply believes in the mission of the Consumer Product Safety Commission. I'm not here to talk about politics. When you're holding your child after a life-threatening injury, you're not thinking about who's in office. You're filled with questions no parent should have to ask. What now? Why us? Why is this toy still on the market? The Consumer Product Safety Commission was enacted by President Richard Nixon, a Republican. He understood that protecting American children from dangerous products isn't partisan, it's patriotic. Even as Ronald Reagan led one of the most aggressive deregulation efforts in history, he preserved the CPSC, knowing that walking away from child safety would come at too high a cost, losing the trust of the families central to his vision for America. I'm here because my daughter Kipley, along with thousands of other children across the country, was injured by a product she was never allowed to play with and that never should have been delivered to our front door. We all want less government waste. But the CPSC isn't waste. It's the firewall protecting American families from hazardous products flooding in from overseas. It's border control for dangerous consumer products. The real fraud, the real waste, would be to allow foreign shadow factory manufacturers to injure and kill American children without consequence, while the system gets bogged down in bureaucracy and delay. American families deserve more than promises. They deserve action. Before Kipley got hurt, I trusted our system. I trusted that in addition to myself, someone was vetting, watching. What I know is that the water beads were marketed as safe based on tests that didn't reflect reality. The beads were tested one at a time in water. They were not tested in milk or formula, which is primarily what infants and young children in our country drink. In milk, these beads clump and bind together, creating dangers that tests never accounted for, dangers that forever changed my child's life. That's why we need eyes on problems like these, because what looks like a harmless toy can destroy a family and its financial future. After Kipley's injury, I brought my family's story to the commission. I've proudly advocated alongside both Democratic and Republican commissioners, collaborating with investigative journalists and other courageous mothers. We helped expose the hidden dangers of water beads. Earlier this year, I took that evidence even further, becoming the first parent advocate to co-author a case study in pediatrics, one of the most respected and rigorous medical journals in the world. Protecting our children from hazardous products like water beads isn't a Republican issue or a Democrat issue. It's a moral obligation we all share as Americans. Kipley should be in school right now, reading in the library, laughing with friends at recess, just being a kid. But instead, she's here, using her voice to protect other children from the pain she lived through. She's not just asking us to do better. She's showing us how and why. Make consumer safety American again, not outsourced, not ignored. It is now my honor and my heart's greatest pride to introduce you to the bravest person I have ever known, my daughter, Kipley Haugen.
Okay. Why don't we move these down?
Yeah, we're gonna move you up. You don't mind moving to the side for her because she's gonna point to your picture.
Hello, my name is Kipley Haugen, and I'm 8 years old. I had worked so hard in therapy so I could come here today and share my story. When I was a baby, I was hurt and poisoned by water beads. I had emergency surgery because the water beads got stuck inside of my tummy. They left me a scar on my belly, and the water beads hurt in my brain. Water beads are not toys. You see this jar. Imagine it's my stomach. Water beads can clump together in milk. If they can clump in milk, they can clump in kids. Companies say the beads were safe, but that was a lie. They hurted me. Sometimes people don't understand me when I talk, and sometimes I forget things. The words get lost. I have to take medicine every night so I can sleep and so my body doesn't shake. Sometimes I feel angry and frustrated. Sometimes I get really sad, but I keep smiling, praying, and using my voice. My dream is simple, that all kids can grow up safe from water bead toys. No more injuries, no more surgeries, no more losses like Esther. I'm here today because I know we can fix this. I know you can help me. I believe in you. President Donald Trump chaired Feldman. Please help us. Please help me protect kids from water beads. I'm counting on you. Thank you.
That was wonderful. That was great. How old were you, Kipley? How old were you when this happened to you?
I think I was 1 when this happened to me.
1 year, and you're 8 years now. 8 years old now. That's great. Well, thank you so much for being here. We are so grateful to you for giving your face and voice to this cause, and you can certainly count on us. Thank you to your mom for giving you permission to take a day away from school to educate us. You are teaching us. This is a great lesson. And just so everybody understands, these water beads are colorful, they're attractive to kids, they look like food. We all know kids put stuff in their mouths. The default for kids is to put it in your mouth, especially at 1 year old. And there are countless other kids who had exactly the same thing happen to them. But the people who make the water beads, Kipley, left this product on the market even though it knew that they were hurting kids. It took the consumer advocates and you, the one who suffered the harm, to make people more aware of what the dangers are. So you have done a lot to help people, and we are very grateful to you for being here today. Thank you. So we're happy to take any questions, especially if they're directed to Kipley.
There's a question over here, Senator.
Yeah.
Donald Trump has made it
And
very
can you
clear.
say what outlet you're with, please?
Molly Martinez with Gray Television. The White House has made it very clear that these firings are within the realm of executive power. And they also make it clear that they don't really plan on reneging any of these firings. Senator Van Hollen, you talked about the fight on Capitol Hill to reinstate these jobs. What does that fight look like?
Well, the fight looks like, first of all, we'll see you in court, because they've made it very clear that they are wrong. They've invoked a principle that somehow there's this unitary control. But in fact, this agency is independent. It is explicitly and specifically separate from the president. He has no power to do what he's doing. He can make it perfectly clear, but the courts will make it perfectly clear when they reinstate these commissioners after their court fight, as courts have done with other employees. Just because the president says it's legal doesn't make it so. And so that's what resistance looks like, number one. And number two, I'm hoping that actually some of our colleagues will begin to have some spine and backbone, and that kids like Kipley and countless others across the country will convince them that, you know, consumers are not on their side, the American people are not on their side, and they will say to the president and say to each other, we have to put a stop to this lawlessness. It is dumb, it is cruel, it is lawless. It's inexplicable what they're doing.
And these are independent decision makers by law. And the fact that, I know you call them jobs, they are jobs, that's true. But these are actually decision makers that were put in charge of an independent agency. So I believe they're going to prevail in court. But in the meantime, we don't have the people in place anymore, as you heard the day they missed today, to make sure that these unsafe products are out of our stores and off our shores. And I don't think there was a better messenger than Ashley and Kipley on this, because these have long been a bipartisan issue, starting with Richard Nixon, that we don't want these unsafe products in. If they're not willing to stand up to that, our colleagues, the Republicans, who are now at least starting to say maybe they shouldn't be able to install the Librarian of Congress, we agree with that. Now they better step in and say, hey, maybe we should have watchdogs on the watch, looking out for these unsafe products. So they have to stop rubber stamping everything he does.
I want to just add, Congress writes laws. There are laws that we've written that include appointments for that the president makes nominations, and the agency or the division of an agency isn't independent of the executive branch. When we write a law like the one that created the Consumer Product Safety Commission that says that it's independent, that says that the only reason that a commissioner could be fired is for misfeasance, malfeasance, for direct acts, and that's the exclusive reason that they're able to do that, which has not occurred here, then they are taking an unlawful action. So that's how we feel like we'll have a court decision that will come down on our side. But again, more importantly, the CPSC administers the grant program that has, for this past fiscal year, $2.5 million in pool safety grants that are distributed across the country, applied for, and right now, the former commissioner, the former chairman, said that because of the staff firings, they're not even able to administer and get those funds out. And that means that there are more children who will drown in swimming pools as a result of not having that funding out there to keep kids safe. It's outrageous.
Yep.
Also with Great Television and Investigate TV, I know that you all have been saying it's nonpartisan, and historically it has been nonpartisan. But when you hear someone like Peter Feldman, the acting chairman, say Democrats are upset and they're trying to find efficiency within the agency, which they claim has been inefficient, he also went on to say that under Trump, they're outpacing the record setting, and they're trying to get rid of resources from DEI to actually do what the Consumer Product Safety Commission is supposed to do. When you hear words like that, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, listen to Kipling. Don't believe us. Talk to people whose lives have been saved, as well as parents who have lost children because of unsafe products, and listen to families who are saying the CPSC has saved lives. Pediatric poisonings are down 80%. Crib fatalities are down 80%. Home fires down 40%. There are numbers that prove how effective this agency has been and how cost effective it is. So don't tell me you're saving waste. You're laying waste to safety and families. And it has been bipartisan for a reason, that saving kids' lives really isn't about blue or red. It's about the kids.
I know President Trump likes to take credit for everything good that happens and blame Biden and Democrats for everything bad that happens. He has absolutely nothing to do with the success of this agency. It's an independent agency. It operates separate from the executive branch. He does not control its actions, which is why he's taken the unlawful actions that he did. You have 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans. That reverses over time as the terms expire when there's a different party in the White House. And the activity and actions that the Consumer Product Safety Commission has taken since January 20th have been the same ones that they were working on prior to this president being in office. So he gets no credit for the progress that he's made. What he's doing is he's actually stepping in and trying to dismantle this agency because he's stooging for corporations that don't want to spend the money to keep kids and people safe. That's what the bottom line is.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.